Hey everyone! In this video I'm going to show you how I go from a Figma design to a React and Tailwind CSS implementation. Today I'm going to focus on one specific part of a template that I've created myself in Figma, and today we will be talking about the menu here in particular, and I will show you how I go about it and how I implement the whole thing in Tailwind CSS. On the left hand side you can see that I've set up a simple Vite project. I've installed, apart from the typical boilerplate that comes with it, I've installed Tailwind CSS and auto prefixer and post CSS, and then I've also installed CVA. I can show you quickly what CVA is. What's even the URL CVA? It's basically a small helper, or not even small, it's a helper that works similar to tools like Stitches, like CSS and TypeScript tools, but instead of working with objects, you're literally working with CSS, and this tool makes it easy for creating really good and clean components using Tailwind CSS. Note that I'm using a beta version here because it has a slightly nicer syntax, but yeah, make sure when you use it either install the beta or look up what the small differences are. But yeah, let's dive right into it. Let's have a first look in the Figma file. I've got here a component tab with the component itself, and when you look at it, or when I look at it, the first thing I'm seeing here is this is one big component, but it has more than one part to it. So we've got the root component here, which is basically the wrapper of an unordered list. And then inside I can see a menu item, and this menu item is also basically its own component in Figma. And that menu item then also has a link, which is basically some text and some styling to it. And then apart from these links, we also have some sort of an avatar, which also can be linked to somewhere else. And altogether, we also have this as you can see, you can have this as a desktop version or as a mobile version, which is then smaller than the desktop version. So let's start. I've prepared the basic component structure for us already. This is how I would go for it. This is our root component, and I said then we will have an item. This item will have a link with either text or an avatar, and that's about it. If we look into our menu component that I've imported here, I've set this whole thing up as well. We've got our root, we've got an item, we've got a link, and we've got an avatar. The avatar is basically an image, and then the item is the list item, whereas the root is the unordered list, and the link, as expected, it's just a link. Let's start with the designs. If we go over to our HTML file, you can see this is what we've got at the moment, and we want to style it. This image is something I imported in here from the assets somewhere here, and then I've passed it over here. One thing you will notice in my components is all of these components just get all the props, and I just pass on all the props of unordered list, of an image, of an LI or list item, and also of the anchor tag. So for us in here, the good thing is I can immediately add title saying avatar, and also provide an alt text, which will then straight pass into avatar of user. Something like this, and this will be automatically passed into our image tag here. Okay, let's go over to the styling bit. So the first thing we can see here is, and I'm going to start with the top one first, ignoring the image and the smaller version. The first thing we can see here is we've got some base styles. So let's import CVA. Let's do it. Let me do the auto. So root styles. And you will see in a bit why I'm using a custom prop. But if you do CVA, it takes an object with a few keys. We will just have base for now, which will apply the base styles to it. This CVA returns a function, and when we call this function in here for class name, it will basically return a string of all the classes that we want to apply here. And you will see how this is going to be handy later on, but let's start with this first. In here we can see this is a rounded corner, so I'm going to start with rounded full. To make it visible, we need our background color, which is FA. So let's do FA, BG, FA. There we go. And we also have a border, with border being, what do we have in here? We've got F5. All right. And then at the top, we can see we've got auto layout. So that easily translates to flexbox. So let's do flex. And we've got gap 4 pixels, which is gap 1. And then we also have padding left and right to be 8 pixels. And then we've got a custom 5 pixels for the y-axis, so 5 pixels. And if we look at our result here, you can see this looks actually quite good. One thing we need to do here is this is center aligned, so let's do item center. And then we also don't want this to grow until the end, so let's do sort of flex. Let's do inline flex, and we should be good. This looks really good already. We've got our spacing, we've got everything we need. For now, the good thing about composability is for now remove our image, and we should be looking at what we've at the top. This looks good. So what's the next thing? The next thing we're going to look at is the menu item itself. And I'm going to move over to this component because that's going to make it easier. So we've got one, let me close this. We've got the same approach here, const menu item styles. Let's create a CVA object, base. And if we look at if you look at this one here, we can see it also has flexbox. Let's ignore this because we don't have more than one item, but we use this to like center align it properly. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'll say flex items center, justify center, and then P 4 pixels all around. That's good start. And you can see we've got our spacing in here. Let me first apply it, otherwise we won't see it. There you go. Now we have the spacing we want. And the only thing that I'm seeing here is on desktop, we've got a 14 pixels Roboto, which I will ignore for now, but 14 pixels and a text color. So for the links, let's do the same again. Const link styles is CVA base, and we've got text. What was that? 1717. And we had 14 pixels is text SM. And we should be good when we apply this in here. we can see the size has changed to, can I see this here, to 14 pixels. There we go. This looks good. So we've got the first part done. The second part we will see here is that when we have an active state, we want to have a different color, and it's also suddenly font medium. So how do we approach this? First of all, in here we see that this item can be active, this link. So I will pass in an active prop here. We will also then make sure that this can receive an active prop. The active prop will be optional, and it's going to be a Boolean. And then in here, what we will do is we will take all the props, but take out active out of these, and we will also give this a default value because it's optional. And then what we will do is we will pass this down to this CVA, and I will show you in a bit how this is going to work. So how does this work? Right now it doesn't know what it is because we haven't introduced any variants. The benefit of CVA is that you can define variants in here, and it will do the job for you to swap out the styles as you need. So we have an active variant. This active variant is Boolean, so we can only have true or false in here. And for each we will have different styles. So for inactive, we said we're going to have this color, right? So let me paste that to when it's false. But when it's true, let's take this from here and say text this color. And additionally, we will have it font medium. This one then will be font normal. All right, and you can see it did work, right? So this is looking good. One thing we want to do next is what do we want to do next? I would say we've got our items, we've got this bit. Let me add, it's not part of this, but let me add a hover state in here as well, because first of all let's make sure that all of these have an href, so they have a cursor. Yeah, what we want, like when we hover over these two or these three that are not active, we want to have this color but with a regular font weight. So let's add this in here as well. When it's false, we want to have hover, and then it's going to be this color. Ta-da! All good. So what's next? I think we've got the menu here sorted. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add back our avatar. So menu dot item with a menu link, which links to, this is going to be the home page, so I'm gonna do this, and avatar, which takes in our user image, and we have this back. But as you can see, this is definitely not the size we want. So what are we going to do? First of all, let's have a look at what the size is going to be for the image. Or first of all, for the menu item itself, we've got 4 pixels, which is basically a 4 pixels. Is it still correct? Items P1. Yeah, this is still correct. So what is next. The image itself has no padding, which is also good. And the image, or this one actually has a fixed size of 24 pixels. So that's what we're gonna add in here. So how do we do this? The thing I'm going to do is I will just create a const image or avatar styles CVA, same as always, base. What's 24 pixels? Let's go through the 6 on H6 and apply this over here. Avatar styles, and let's have a look. Okay, this is exactly what we wanted, but for me it feels like this one had, you see how this spacing seems to be off here? So let me have a look what's wrong. This one is 24 pixels, which is fine. This one is 32 pixels, which is also fine. But the more menu should not have, like it's only having 1 pixel. So what happened here? I will have to change this. All right, so interesting. Now you're getting to the interesting bit. What we want to do is, when we have an avatar, we want to have a different variance in here. So variance, we will do the same thing as we did before. Has avatar true and false. When we have this avatar, when we don't have an avatar, this is our style, and this is still correct. But when we do have an avatar, this suddenly changes to 1 pixel on either side, but 4 pixels on the right. So P Y is 1 pixel, and then P left is 1 pixel, but P right is 4 pixels. Let's introduce our prop in here as well. Has avatar is a boolean. Let's spread out the props, take out has avatar, make a default false, and pass this in here. And in here we will say has avatar equals false. And now the spacing should be correct, but it isn't. What did we miss again? Still taking the wrong spacing, and that's because of course we have to say has avatar, because we have a different style when we have an avatar. And now this makes sense. Now it's working. So what do we do next? I think we've got the main thing implemented here. The only bit that's now missing is, if you look at our designs, doing the same thing for mobile, right? And here we basically don't have to do a lot. We're just going to implement the same styles and have a look at it. So what do we do when we have an avatar? Nothing has changed except for the top padding is removed now. So let me do the same thing here. If we have an avatar, but or mobile, let's say this is desktop, so we're going to add this in here. And then on mobile, we only have P left being P1 pixels. So this has not changed from here. So let's remove this, and PY is empty. So let's do nothing on here because that's going to be the default. And then P right is still 4 pixels. So okay, this is our adapted version for mobile. If we let me change this to the right and open up a mobile version. Let me zoom in here for you. And then we can see we've adapted the padding in here to be like to have no spacing, and then if we remove this, the spacing is gonna grow. So this is looking good. The next bit is, let me go back to the designs. We've got padding has changed. There's no avatar. We've got padding left and right at 8 pixels, which is still the same, and padding top and bottom is now 4 pixels. So PY is 1, and this is only for medium. There we go. In regards to fonts, let's look at the menu item first. The menu item mobile has slightly changed. Is it here? Slightly changed paddings. No, it hasn't. It's the same padding, but the font size has removed. So we started with this, but we're going to have this for medium size, and then we will have text XS, which should be 12 pixels. I'm gonna change this to 11 pixels to match what we have in the Figma, and there we go. Has the avatar changed? The avatar is 32 pixels here, and it's still 32 pixels here, so that's not going to change at all. So our component is now ready and finished implemented. So now that we've got this implemented, there's a few minor things that I'm going to update here as well. As you've noticed, I've been passing all the props in here, and these props are basically every UL prop, right? So what happens if I set here class name, because I want to have a different color, BG red 100. This is not going to be reflected here. Why? Or it is going to be reflected here, but what happened here is all the styles that I've introduced before is gone. Why is this happening? Because I'm spreading out the props in here, which also has class names. So you have to imagine it's class name, props, and then class name again, overriding everything that's in here. So what we need to do is we have to take out class names. And when we do that, it's back, but our background color hasn't changed. So good thing is CVA also accepts this class name, which then will be added to it. And when we do this, our additional class name is actually working. Let me do the same thing for everything else in here as well to make sure that this is actually working. And now we should be fine. Let me undo this again. And this is our full component. This is basically everything I'm going to show you today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment box below and I will try to reply to each of you. And I'll see you in the next video.